Fox buried a fully greenlit X-Men cinematic universe, 10 films, 5 years of committed development, and a plan that would have made mutants the center of Hollywood for the next decade. And the reason they killed it is something they never wanted you to know. You heard about the merger. You saw the headline. What you didn't see is what Fox had already built before that announcement was made. A plan so complete, so greenlit, so contractually locked in, that it scared the one company powerful enough to bury it. And that fear is exactly what ended it. Go back to 2015. The MCU is unstoppable. Iron Man 3 alone made $1.2 billion globally, and Fox is watching every dollar of it knowing they're sitting on something just as powerful. Bryan Singer and producer Simon Kinberg walk into a Fox executive meeting and pitch something the X-Men franchise had never attempted. A fully interconnected cinematic universe. Not just sequels, a network. X-Force as a standalone R-rated action franchise. Gambit as a noir thriller. Channing Tatum had already been attached since 2014. New Mutants as a genre horror film, something Marvel Studios would never touch. A multiple-man project. A television arm already in production with Legion and The Gifted on FX. Fox greenlights the entire slate in one meeting in early 2016. The contracts go out. The development money flows. Every project has a director attached within 18 months. Here is what they never put in the trades. By mid-2017, Fox had committed over $200 million in development funding across these projects alone. Not production, development. Scripts, pre-production, director deals, first-look agreements. Drew Goddard, the man who wrote The Martian and directed Cabin in the Woods, signed on to write and direct X-Force. Gore Verbinski, 3 Pirates of the Caribbean films, was deep in Gambit negotiations before scheduling conflicts pulled him out. His replacement was Doug Liman, the director of Edge of Tomorrow. New Mutants wrapped principal photography in April 2017. The film existed. It was in the can. Fox had spent $67 million making it, and Simon Kinberg was simultaneously building a shared creative Bible connecting every one of these properties, darker, stranger, and more cinematic than anything the MCU had attempted. The deal was signed. The universe was real. Then something shifted. In the summer of 2017, delays appeared. Gambit missed its release window again. New Mutants announced reshoots with no explanation. The trades noted both blamed production complications and moved on. But the real complication wasn't happening on any film set. Remember that greenlit X-Men universe Fox announced in 2016? Here is where it actually died. Not in a test screening, not at the box office, in a conference room in Burbank in meetings that had been running for months before anyone went public. December 14, 2017. Disney announces it is acquiring 21st Century Fox for $52.4 billion. And this is the part that never makes the retrospectives. That deal was in active negotiation through most of 2017. While Drew Goddard was developing X-Force, while Channing Tatum was still preparing for a role he'd spent 3 years waiting on, while New Mutants was sitting in post-production, the executives who greenlit that universe were simultaneously in closed rooms negotiating the sale of the entire company. Every standard studio contract includes what the industry calls a turnaround clause, the right for an acquiring company to shelve any project without obligation to produce it. Turnaround means killed. Disney exercised those clauses across the entire X-Men slate. Gambit, turnaround. X-Force with Drew Goddard, turnaround. Multiple man, never mentioned again. New Mutants sat on a shelf for 2.5 years and was released in August 2020, during a global pandemic with zero marketing, dropped into theaters running at 25% capacity. The film didn't fail. It was abandoned. Disney needed it to disappear quietly, and it did, because a successful New Mutants would have proven the Fox X-Men universe still had commercial life. And that was the one thing the new owners could not afford for you to believe. Think about what that universe would have been. An R-rated X-Force film from Drew Goddard, released in 2019, competing directly with Avengers, Endgame. Gambit as a standalone noir thriller with Channing Tatum in a role he'd spent 5 years building. New Mutants as the first genuine horror film in superhero cinema, given a real theatrical run with real studio support. A decade of X-Men stories running parallel to the MCU, not shared universe, but 2 competing visions of what superhero films could be, forcing both studios to make better movies. That version of Hollywood exists only in the development documents Fox filed when they greenlit it. You were never going to see it. The people who made sure you didn't now own the characters, control the timeline, and decide what gets made next. Here is what nobody has answered. What exactly those turnaround clauses specified, and who inside Fox signed off on them first. Because there is another major studio that made the same calculation with a different beloved franchise, buried it for the same financial reason, and that story goes even deeper.